All right, welcome to Be the Market Expert. It is Tuesday. It is that time, and so let's jump into some data. So let's go over here, and the very first thing that I think that we should keep in mind and look at, right, is median home price versus the inventory. And we all went through real estate school at some point, and what we know is this: we know supply and demand, right? That's one of the things that we got tested on that we have some basic understanding around. And if we look at this graph, right, green is inventory and the black is median price. And then again, it gets a little weird. You have to look on the left-hand side because this is actually talking about dollars. And on the right-hand side, it's talking about inventory. And so if we were to look at this and we're talking about 2019 to 2024, and the reason why we use 2019 as a baseline is because that's before everything got weird in 2020, right? So that's why you're going to see a lot of graphs talk pre-pandemic 2019, because in 2020 everything kind of broke and we're finally almost getting out of it. And I think that's what's interesting. That's what we have to keep in mind, that 2020 was weird, 2021 was weird, 2022, the end of it was kind of a hard market. Like it started getting hard at the very end. Like you can actually kind of see like the market is getting like it's starting, the inventory is starting to pick back up again, but nothing really, but prices are coming down a little bit. And we'll talk about that. And then I think we're finally towards the end of it in 2024, which is awesome. So if we look at this again, median home prices, we can see the inventory pre-pandemic in 2019, we had about 821,000 homes on the market. So 821,000 homes in the market nationwide. And what that correlated with, right, we can actually see this home value of around $285,000. So nationwide home data, median home price, in pre-pandemic levels, we were at 285K and there was 821,000 homes for sale. Fast forward to where we are today, January 9th, 2024, median home price is around like $485,000, I think is what it is. We'll look at it. I actually have a slide for that, or a page for that. And if we were to look at inventory, as we go through and we look at this green line, it is significantly lower, right? Like we look at we look at like three something for home price. We look at inventory being around 480,000. So there is a direct correlation with what we are seeing. And that is the conversation that we need to be having with our clients, as that more inventory coming on the market, we might see some prices fluctuate a little bit, but there's still not enough inventory to be able to fulfill the current demand. And that's why we're not seeing prices go down drastically either. There's not enough inventory. Even with homes sitting on the market a little bit longer than they've been sitting, homes still aren't going to be taking big price decreases because there's just not enough inventory. So the second thing, right, we look at is, fewer homes will take a price cut in 2024 in the spring. Inventory and the market is very seasonal. And the conversations that we're having right now, they're kind of hard to have, because as we're looking back in like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago time, well, we know historically speaking, homes don't truly hit the market. There's less people. People are hibernating. People are hibernating come Christmas time and through the new year, right? I just heard kids went back to school yesterday, right? And it was like relief from parents. They were like, my kids finally went back to school yesterday. And so the same thing happens in the housing market. In the housing market, it starts to slow down. So if we're looking at this thing, here's some things to look at. National single family listings with price drops. We're going through here again, 2019. We're not seeing a whole lot, right? 30, 40%. We saw a big decrease in 21 through 22 in the beginning part. Towards the end is when it started to spike back up, right? We started talking at the end of 2022, it got really hard and we started seeing more and more homes with price cuts. And we saw a little bit of a dip in 2023 and it popped back up. And again, if we're looking at this thing in data from October to January, it's hard to look at this data because this data, as we're going through and actually making points around it, the market typically slows down. And we haven't really seen a whole lot of seasonality in the past. Yes, there's been a little bit, but this is historically speaking where we see a lot of things happen. So, of course, the main wish during the crazy COVID-19 period was to try to get a total average listing back to pre-COVID-19 levels. Like, that is what we want. That is a healthier market. We have been what's called a savagely unhealthy market in the past. And so as we're going through and we're doing these different things, we want to see some stuff. So looking at this weekly housing data. So if we were to look from December 29th of 2023 to January 5th, 2024, we can see that there's 499,000 homes for sale nationwide. If we were to look at this thing, and it says same from last year, so we're talking about December 2022 to January 6th, 2023, it was even less, right? There was less houses. So we're seeing a little bit more. And again, we need more inventory. We need more inventory because there are so many buyers out there that there isn't enough inventory to be able to go around and fulfill. And again, they're not building enough homes at this point for new builds just to be able to sustain everybody. So another good reference point to here. So the bottom inventory level in 2022, and again, 2022 was a hard year, especially like towards the end of it, 240,000. There was 240,000 homes on the market in 2020. The peak inventory levels of 2023 was 570,000. So we are talking a little bit more than double from the bottom of 2022. It was our peak inventory. So we haven't had a whole lot of inventory to work with. And that's been a lot of things. And keep in mind this golden handcuff theory, like that's what we talk about. When we start thinking about this golden handcuff theory, it's that interest rates have been driving a lot of the consumer, the buying, the supply and the demand. We have to keep in mind that most sellers become buyers. All right. So most sellers become buyers. And this golden handcuff says this, that we had a lot of people that have these historically low interest rates attached to their houses. And we're talking 2%, 3%, somewhere in there. And so as these sellers are looking like, does it make sense for me to go out and buy another house? Well, firstly, it has to check every box that there is. Because back in 2021, it didn't really matter. Interest rates were so low. Like if I wanted a different scene, like I want to be able to look at out my front door and just have a different view. Like, okay, it made sense. Like I was really just changing apples for apples and the interest rates, money was free. Well, now money's not free. And so people are having to actually take into a consideration leaving their $2,500, $3,000 a month mortgage payment. And does it make sense to go to a $4,500, $5,000 a month mortgage payment? And that's why we saw less inventory going on the market. And again, builders aren't going to build their way out of this for us because they're a for-profit company. They want to keep the prices raised to a point to where they're still making money. And so they're only going to release enough houses to keep prices artificially raised. Now, here we go. If we were to look at pre-pandemic levels, all the way back to 2015, this time we had 959,000 homes on the market. So 959,000 homes on the market, then we're in a place where buyers are actually out there and they're looking. There's more conversations because prices, while they might come down a little bit, right? They would have to, right? We're talking about a 50% decrease or increase in homes, right? So we're at a 50% decrease at this point right now. So what this looks like is if there were more homes, we'd probably see some prices come down a little bit, but it would be a more balanced market in the sense to where there's more options for buyers and they're not having to go through and make any decisions that are just coming from a point of scarcity, which most of them are, again, because there's not a whole lot of houses for sale. So here we go again. We're looking at pre-pandemic levels, 2019. And this is where we are as a nation right now. There is not enough homes for the amount of buyers that we're looking at. Again, if we're going through looking at national data, again, single family new listings popping up on the market, right? We're looking at 2001. So that's another interesting statistic that we might be having a conversation. We might be even saying that, we haven't seen this low of inventory since 2021. And be thinking about that. Like all these years we had all of these things different, all these different pieces happening, conversations that we could be going through and having with our client. One of the things that we should also be looking at, we don't have data for it again, because most people don't want to go through and have this conversation around purchase applications in December months, because it's very hard with people going to sleep and hibernating during December. But what we do need to keep in mind is this right here. Pre-Christmas, we saw 6 weeks of positive growth as rates came down. So as we're thinking about this, what this is telling us is this: as rates are dropping, we're seeing more people raise their hand and say that I am potentially interested in purchasing a house. Why does that matter? Well, firstly, it matters because we do know that most of these decisions are interest rate driven. And again, like people don't care about what the interest rate is, like, a 10% versus 2%. Like, I don't care. What matters though is their monthly payment, right? People are driven by their monthly payment, right? I get a paycheck every month. I know how much money is coming in. And then to be able to go out and take that money and to go buy a house, I'm going to be like, okay, well, X amount of my paycheck every month is going to be going to living. Is that worth it to me? Like, that's the conversation that we need to be having. And so as the real estate economist of choice for my clients, it's not my job to talk them into buying a house or selling a house. My job is to figure out what their motivation was. What motivated them to go out and to see how much they qualified for at this interest rate? That's what this is saying. For 6 weeks prior to Christmas, people started reaching out to their lenders to figure out how much of a home they could qualify for. Guys, this is important. As rates are coming down, we're going to see more people raise their hand, interested in seeing what they qualify for. So what are we doing? Are we making sure that we are letting people know what the interest rates are? What would it look like? This might be an interesting thing. What would it look like to get onto your KW website, right? Go to your KW website that Chris and Elizabeth have helped you set up, and get on it and go play with the mortgage calculator and go back and see what our average price point is. Called 585 for fun. If we're talking about Arvada specifically, it's like $715,000 or something like that, I think. But if we were to look at it, see what a 7% interest rate looks like and see what a 6% interest rate looks like. And we know about buy downs, and we know about all these other things that we can actually help people qualify and be more comfortable with their monthly payment. But what would it look like to show a side-by-side comparison of what a monthly payment looks like? So I think that's interesting, because guys, as we're going through, we're thinking about being the real estate economist of choice, and we know that things are going to get easier this year. I'm telling you, I promise you right now, things are going to get easier to take more mind share from people and for your businesses to be able to implode and explode exponentially as we're thinking about this. So as we're doing and we're taking massive mind share, we do it two different ways. The first way is we need to be educators, right? We need to be going through and letting people know, like, here's what interest rates are doing. What does this mean for a monthly payment? Here's the average price point in Arvada. Here's the average price point in Westminster, and being able to show them these different things. That's the purpose of this class. But the other thing is to entertain them as we're doing it. So we know where they're going for entertainment, right? They're going to their cell phones. They're going to Facebook. They're going to Instagram. They're going to TikTok. They're jumping into their emails. Like, do you have a email drip that's going out to people? Do you have a blog article that you're writing? Like, what are you doing to take this information to put it out there so that people are going to get entertained and they're being educated by you, their real estate economists of choice? So next week, this information will start coming out, which is what's more important. And so we're going to watch the uptick. We're going to see more and more purchase application data going up as the Fed isn't playing with interest rates, right? So as long as the Fed isn't doing anything and having some knee-jerk reaction where interest rates get spiked, we're going to see this positive growth in purchase applications, which just means people are going again to their lender and saying, hey, I'm interested. So here we go. Another very key thing that we need to be talking about is mortgage rates. And so we're looking at mortgage rates right here, and all I have this set for is 1 week, 1 week's time. And again, like if we were to look at this in 2023, it would truly look like a third world country. And what I mean by that is we live in the United States. So we live in the United States of America, and we have stability in most of our lives. And with that, we expect there's to be stability in the housing market, in our banks and everything. But in 2023, we saw a lot of the graph go up and down. And it was the Fed trying to land the plane, if you will. What they were trying to do is they were trying to get to a point to where they were slowing the spending of money to a point to where the dollar was not being devalued. Like that was the whole purpose of what the Fed was doing. Well, this is cool, guys. Like this graph is showing exactly what we want to see as citizens of the United States of America, being the only country that has a 30-year fixed rate, right? We're the only country that has a 30-year loan that has a fixed rate attached to it. There's other countries that have loan products, but the loan products, they have variable rates. We have a fixed rate. So when we talk about being a hedge against inflation, right? If you guys have heard of that, real estate is a hedge against inflation. And we haven't talked about that in the last couple of years because interest rates have been so low, inflation was what it was. We'll be thinking about this thing. We have people that have a 2%, 3%, 4%, 5% interest rate on the house. And as cost of eggs are going up, cost of gas is going up, phone bills, everything else, like everything else is getting more and more expensive, but their home payments are staying the exact same. And what's cool about that is while my monthly payment for my house might be $2,500, $3,000, $3,500 a month, right? Somewhere in there, I'm also getting equity, right? My home's appreciating year over year. And historically speaking, since the 90s, homes have appreciated 4% year over year. So as we're having conversations with people and they're like, oh, you know what? I just want to see what the market's going to do and whatever. Awesome. So they raised their hand. They were interested in purchasing a house. And then we are educating them. We're the real estate economists of choice. We're educating them and saying, well, hey, so interest rates are at right now, interest rates for VA is 6.215%. If we're talking about FHA, it's 6.474%. And if we're talking about a 30-year conforming conventional loan, 6.669%. And what's neat about that is that's what my interest rate's going to be in 25 years from now, if I keep the house that long, right? And so nothing's going to go up. So as people are purchasing houses, this is stability. This is a constant that is going to happen to where they're not going to have any surprises 5 years from now, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now. They know exactly what their monthly interest rate is going to look at. So this is what we want to see. This is living in the United States of America. There's not a whole lot of fluctuation. This is a good thing. This is a good sign right here. So 1 week's worth of data. Yeah, there's a little bit of a dip right here. So I don't know what happened. Like I bet we go and look and see if there's some news articles that for the reason why this took a dip on the 4th. And it wasn't a big one, but I mean, it went from what, 6.2 down to 6.1. So a little bit of a dip. But this is good information. And I'm probably taking this, right? And I'm going to put it out there and just let everyone know that this is what interest rates are at. And again, what would it look like to show people what, 7.5%, 8% interest rates look like on a house off of my website, your websites, and then show people what that same payment for that house is today. And again, you're going to have people that are going to be on the fence, right? Well, hey, I'm going to wait. I just want to see what interest rates get to and 5.5%. I don't think we're going to see 5.5% this year. I do think we see sub sixes. Like I think that's real. I think sub sixes is a very real number. But with that being said, we have to be making sure that we're educating, right? We're educators. And so as being an educator, we need to be going through and making sure that we're having the conversation that as interest rates are going down, there's also going to be more people with that mentality. People are going to have that mentality when interest rates are going down. There's going to be more people, purchase application data will go up. There's going to be more people wanting to dip their toe into the market, and there's going to be more competition. And what that means is this: homes are only worth X amount of dollars. So firstly, you're going to have X amount of people with inventory being as low as it is that are going to be bidding on the same house. So you're going to have maybe multiple bid scenarios again on one piece of property, which means that you're going to have to be pulling different levers on the contract, right? To where you might be waiving some contingencies. You might be having to go X amount of dollars over asking. But again, homes are only worth a certain amount of money. So the conversation that we need to be having is we need to be looking at maybe what 6.2% looks like today on a house. Take that same house and go like 5.5%. See what 5.5% looks like on a purchase and look at what those dollars. And so if they're only saving like $200, $300, and I don't know what these dollars are, so don't quote me on that. But if we're talking only like $300 a month difference, times 10 years, 5 years, right? The average American, I think, lives in the house for like 7 years right now. So if we're talking only a finite piece of time, think about what that looks like. If they're having to go 20,000, $25,000 over asking, they can't get a mortgage for that. Where does that money come from? Well, that comes from their bank account. The lender's not going to loan them if the home's only worth $500,000. They have to offer 520 because there's multiple offers on it, and they have to come up with that $20,000 out of pocket. Where is the break-even point at there? So we need to be going through and checking this kind of stuff out and be the real estate economist of choice, knowing that awesome, the average price point in the Denver metro is somewhere around $585,000. At the interest rate today, you would be paying X amount of dollars per month. And if you were to wait to go down to 6% or 5.5%, this is what your monthly payment would be looking like. But here's the caveat to that. So mortgage rates. And again, if we were to look in 1 year's time, guys, this is what I'm talking about. This is third world country information, right? This is not the United States of America. So this is what gave so much people so much anxiety, and they didn't want to dip their feet into the water because they didn't know if it was going to drop or go up or what that looked like. Now we're talking about this. This makes people feel good. Even our sellers are going to look at this and they're going to say, awesome. If I sell my house and I'm comfortable with this interest rate, and let's say that I have to sell my house to buy a new house, I at least know that I'll be able to afford a home after I sell my house. And that's a big fear that some sellers have right now is I need the money to go buy a house. And we want to see flat lines like this because it gives them a peace of mind that once their home sells and they have to go buy a home, they know what their interest rate will be. All right, cool. So we're all part of the Denver Metro. So let's talk about Colorado data. So we're looking at this thing, guys, and we start seeing these, and these are the graphics that the Denver Metro Association of Realtors, DMAR, puts out for us. So we're looking at DMAR data. And what this is looking at is we're going through and it's January. So when you see these, the first thing we have to know is this is rear view facing data. This is rear view mirror facing data. So this data is from December that has been put together and it's for us to look at today. So this is all backwards facing. That's the first thing that we need to keep in mind. We are actually looking at what happened in December. So in December, and again, people are hibernating. People are going to sleep. They got Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's. They got insert holidays here. They got kids off of school. They got family coming into town. It's cold. It's actually colder today than it was in all of December, I feel. But if we're looking at this thing, we can see our median close price, $551,993 in the Denver metro. And again, we talk about median. Median is really, I'm taking the low number and the high number, and I'm getting rid of all the outliers, and I'm coming into the middle number. This is the middle number. If we were to take out every dollar amount from every home sold from the top to the bottom and worked our way to the middle, this is that number, 551,000. So a home sold for $551,993 in the Denver metro in December is what this is telling me. Closed homes. We sold 2,600 homes in the Denver metro, which was down 7.65%. And if we're looking at this, guys, this is month over month, right? You see this? This is month over month, which means this is versus November. All right. So we're looking at December data versus November data. That's what we have to keep in mind here. So we sold 7.65% less houses in December than we did in November of the same year. That's month over month data. We also have, look, months of inventory, 1.9 months of inventory, which was down almost a quarter, almost 25 basis points, 24% we were down. So as people are having these conversations, and we're like, I'm waiting for the crash. I'm waiting for it to be a buyer's market. Guys, a buyer's market, there's no world where overnight it turns into a buyer's market. And honestly, I don't think any of us really want to see a buyer's market flip that quick, because you know what that probably means is that we're going to war. And then at that point, if we're going to war, people aren't buying houses. Most normal people aren't buying houses. Like, they're staying put, they're saving, they're buying milk. Like, they're not going to go out and buy a house. They're buying milk, they're buying bread, they're buying stuff to live off of. So when we see 1.9 months of data, for it to turn into a buyer's market, we're talking 6+ months. 6+ months of inventory. So what this is saying is, in less than 2 months, if we didn't put another house on the MLS, we would have no more houses to sell. Think about that. We have less than 2 months of inventory on the market. So this goes back to show us, like, when we were looking at like pre-pandemic levels of 100 or of almost 1 million listings, guys, we don't have a whole lot of inventory. Sales volume, again, so we saw a big dip, 8.1% down over November. Median days on market, this went up. And again, we saw people hibernating. So we saw days on market. And again, we took the, houses that sold in 1 day and houses that sold in 500 days, right? We just kept going all the way down. And this is the middle number. There was a home, at least one, that sold in 29 days. There's probably more than one home that sold in 29 days, but that's up 31%. And again, it's because there's not a lot of inventory. The right house, people are being more picky about purchasing a house at these 6+% interest rates, right? They're going through, and it doesn't make sense to go out and spend $4,000 a month if the house doesn't meet their criteria. So when there being no inventory, higher interest rates, we're going to see days on market go up. That doesn't mean that we're going to see a big drop off in sales price, right? We only saw 3% on the median. We look at active listings, so we saw down 25%. New listings coming onto the market down 36%. And again, we saw hibernation. It's very seasonal right now. And pending sales, we also saw down. So that's the kind of information that we need. So if we're going to go put this graphic out here, which I know a lot of real estate agents like to do, we need to talk about seasonality. Hey, we saw some seasonality. We saw people wanting to enjoy the holidays. We saw people that had, friends and family in town, and that was their focus. Their focus wasn't buying houses, putting their home on the market. They didn't want people going through their homes. Like, that's the message that we need to be able to convey if we're going to put this type of graphic out on social media. And so then what I would probably couple that with is I'm probably going to couple it with going back through and saying, but pre-Christmas, and if you don't want to talk about Christmas, talk about, December 25th. But again, just keep in mind that, like, most people know what Christmas is. It doesn't have to be a religious holiday when we're talking about it, but just let them know that we actually saw more people open to the idea of actually purchasing houses as interest rates are going down. Okay, cool. So 6 positive weeks pre-Christmas of mortgage application data. So people dipping their toe in, seeing what they qualify for. And we did see it slow down in December. And again, talk about the holiday pieces, but we do know that it starts ramping up into the springtime. And most people, they start to de-thaw, right? They start to de-ice, and they're excited about purchasing a property. So encourage them to start their process now. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to go buy a property now, but you should start doing the prerequisite work, and maybe even start just getting fully pre-approved, right? Making sure that the lender has all their information. And again, this is Denver, this is DMAR market trends. And this, again, it's January, so this means it's December data. And you can go through, you look at a lot of different things. We see a lot of red, right? There's obviously a lot of red. There's market highlights, like we can go through and kind of look at some different things. But there's nothing really super exciting here for us to truly look at.
Hey, Charles.
Yes.
Do you know the last time we were actually in a true buyer's market?
A true buyer's market.
Yeah.
I would say it was probably like 2007, 2008. Kathy, would you agree with that?
I don't really know. I think maybe a little later than that.
I was gonna say probably maybe even in 10, 11.
10 or 11 is what I would have guessed.
Tim, I saw you and then I didn't see you. So I appreciate you jumping on. So yeah, so we're talking, it's been a while, right? Like I bought in a buyer's market. And it was like you had your option of houses, right? Like you went through and you got to look at whatever you wanted. And you were really like the only offer on a house sitting for X amount of days. I don't think there's any world where we go back to that. And again, like if we do, it's because something bad is happening, like truly. And again, we have to go through a balanced market first. So, and again, this is all based off of months of inventory. So then let's take a big glance at national data. All right. So this is as of today, 2024. All right. So if we're looking at this thing, it's saying it's a slight seller's advantage, right? It's giving it a 39 score and it bases off of all this information, right? And so if we're looking at this, if we're talking about national data, the median home price nationally is $418,000, right? Price per square foot, 206 days. Average days on market, 106 days. So this is kind of cool, right? Like I'm taking this and we're looking at national data, which is taking really hot markets and really slow markets, and we're just compiling all the information. But then what we can do is we can go through and we can talk about, inventory, right? So nationally speaking, there's 499,000 homes for sale. Oh, 2011, 2013. Thank you, Kathy. So that's the official number from Google. 2011 to 2013 was a buyer, and that makes way more sense. My number was off. Mine was more around when the financial crisis was happening, which led to everything in the foreclosure. So thank you for that, both of you. So we're looking at this thing and we're looking at inventory, 499,143 homes national. And again, this stuff has to go in the MLS. So this isn't talking about new builds. This isn't talking about homes that went on and off the market. Like it doesn't capture that data very quickly. Like this is homes that have actually like sat for a couple of days that it's actually able to capture. So 499,143 homes nationally. Median rent nationally, 2,250. And this is kind of cool, like as we're looking at it. And so median list price, we're seeing 2019, homes are going up. Homes are going up. And we just talked about this. Nationally speaking, historically speaking, since 1999, homes have appreciated 4% year over year. This is a little bit quicker because again, post-pandemic, it was weird. And that's the best way I could describe it. It's just weird. So if we're looking at this thing, we can also see like $1 million home nationally speaking is around 3,000 square feet, a 4-bed, 3-bath house. If we're looking at national data right now, 510,000, it's a 2,200 square foot house, 4-bed, 2.5-bath. Kind of neat, kind of fun data to be like, did you know, like nationally speaking, like this is what, $1 million home would get you. And again, it's kind of weird, or median home, because it's taking the top data and erasing it and the bottom data and erasing it and just going into that middle house. But let's look at Arvada. Let's get a little bit closer to home. So if we're getting closer to home, this is Arvada as of today. Here's what's interesting. We just talked about this number right here for national data. And we said there is 599,143 homes for sale. In Arvada, as of right now, we have 116 houses on the market. The median list price, $715,000. So we're outpacing the national data, right? So if we were, or no, sorry, for the Colorado data, right, we saw the median close price, $551,993. Median data for a bunch of different cities in Colorado. But if we talk about Arvada specifically, we're sitting at $715,000. So what would it look like to go through and maybe take a couple of these? And again, you guys all have access to this. This is just Altos research. and you're going in and here's Arvada. What would it look like to actually like take this statistic? And so median close price as of last year or last month was $551,993 median close price, but the median list price right now is $715,000 in Arvada. You're going through that price per square foot is $266. Our average days on market right now is 93, with the median being 63. I think in this case, depending on what you want to do, right? When I look at this is what median data tells me. There's homes that are priced very well, and there are homes that are priced because the seller dictated what they saw their neighbors sell for in 2021, right? Like that's what median days on market tells me. That's why it's saying 63 is it's taking out all the giant data, it's taking out the data that's sold in a day, and it's compiling like this is probably the data that I want to lean on. This is taking that 3 months on market and the 0 months on market and everything in between and dividing it by how many homes is sold. That's how you get average days on market. So we're looking through this. So our inventory, again, 116 homes on the market with our median rent being $2,800. So this is probably also a game that I'm going to be playing. So if I'm looking for houses and maybe I want to do some things, like maybe I want to go and take a different approach this year, and maybe I want to say, here's my house find of the week. Here's my house find of the week. The median list price in Arvada, 715,000. Check out this gem for $485,000. And I'm going through and I'm running the numbers, right? I'm going to go through, I'm going to run the numbers at the interest rate of what it is and see if I can beat the rental rate. So are you still renting? The median rent price in Arvada right now is $2,838. Your monthly payment on this home is X. And start planting those seeds, because I don't think that people understand the difference between renting and owning. And again, so if I'm taking this data and I'm putting it out there and going through, we're going to be able to take massive mind share. And again, the market segments. So in Arvada, a $1.1 million home looks like a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath. A $775,000 home is 3,400 square feet, 4-bedroom, 3-bath. And what's interesting is here's our starting price, our first time home buyer price. Like we were looking at national data, we went all the way down to $195,000. Like there was enough data to pull $195,000 home nationally speaking. But if we look in Colorado, our starting price point, $539,000. Like this is our starter home in Colorado, in Arvada specifically right now. So as we're going through, I think that's the message today, guys. What we're going to do is we're going to go through and let's make sure that we're definitely talking about the correlation between home prices and inventory. And with such low inventory, prices are going to stay inflated. And that's with interest rates of where they're at right now. So they're staying inflated. When interest rates start to come down, we're going to see more competition. I do believe we're going to see a little bit of an uptick in prices. We will see an uptick in prices when interest rates come down and people start to de-thaw, right? People start getting excited. We're going through, we're going to be watching purchase application data. Purchase application data is saying that pre-Christmas, December 25th, 2023, we saw 6 weeks of positive growth. Now, keep in mind, this data is going to be like a small blip on the radar. Like we're not talking that we're at all-time highs and we're seeing more and more. In all reality, we're seeing all-time lows, but we're seeing people wake up and be open to the thought of potentially purchasing again. So I'm going to be making sure that I'm talking about that message. I'm going to go through and I want to make sure that I'm educating people around what the interest rates are doing. 1 week's time, nothing crazy. Last year, weekly, monthly craziness. This year, over 7 days, the opening to the year, it's been pretty flat and nothing has come through to signify anything we're going through. I'm going to go through, and if I'm going to post this social media graphic, I'm making sure that people know that this was December data and let people know why we're seeing stuff go down. It's not because there's a crash. It's because historically speaking, people are more interested about the holidays and their kids being off than going out and purchasing real estate, right? Like making sure that we're making sure this message is getting out there. National data, if I'm taking the national data, yes, it's a slight seller's advantage at a 39 out of 100 based off of all this information right here. But then if I look in Arvada specifically, we're going to see that it's a 46, right? It's a strong seller. We're still in a seller's market. A lot of this is based off of weeks of inventory. And again, we have 116 homes. And if we were to look at the entirety of the Denver Metro, that's less than 2 months of inventory. If we didn't put another home on the market, we would be out of houses for sale in less than 2 months. And this is the information that we need to be going out and educating. So we're putting this out there and we're just taking mind share, put it on Instagram. You're going to put it on Facebook. You're going to put it in a newsletter. You're going to go through and maybe start a blog, right? You have the ability to blog through your website now. And we're actually seeing big SEO. And the reason why I know that is because we get a new scammer in our email every week telling us that they want us to move over to WhatsApp. So obviously the SEO is working and people are finding us. So with this information, guys, be the real estate economist of choice. Take this, put it out there, have conversations. We're going to be benchmarking this. This is where it's going to get pretty cool. The big one that we're going to be benchmarking right now is obviously going to be the interest rates. And we want to also be benchmarking the purchase application, because as we're seeing the interest rates go down, we're going to see competition go up. And that's the message we need to be having with people. Lower interest rates, more competition, prices probably rise. So does it make more sense that here's your monthly payment, or is it that you want a low monthly payment and you're comfortable taking more money out of your bank account? That's going to be the trade-off that we're going to be seeing in 2024 is we're going to see a lesser monthly payment, but more money coming out of their pocket when we start seeing competition. So guys, with that, that's the Be Your Market Expert. Let's be taking this information. Let's take massive mind share.